In the previous episode, we crossed rural North Korea by a passenger train and reached its capital, Pyongyang. But now it's finally time to explore Pyongyang itself and head straight into the city. Like every foreign visitor to North Korea, we were not allowed to explore the city on our own. At the time this video was filmed, only Russian citizens were allowed to visit North Korea as tourists. But we still had to be accompanied by the guides everywhere, except the hotel.
Получается, улица, к которой мы сейчас подходим, это одна из главных улиц Пхеньяна, да?
Называется проспектом Сунни, что означает победа.
Our first introduction to Pyongyang was a bit unexpected, because we started with going for a walk. The first thing that struck me was how many people were actually out on the streets. I'm sure someone will claim that they were all actors, or that the entire scene was staged for tourists. But honestly, that theory makes no sense. Pyongyang is the city populated by 3 million people, and multiple tourist groups were visiting different parts of the city the same day. There would be no practical reason to simulate the daily life of an entire capital just for a handful of foreign visitors.
You know, funnily enough, in a lot of places, especially on this street, Pyongyang doesn't look much different from what you can see somewhere in Russia, in a way that design of streets, design of quarters, it has a lot of similarities.
Along the way, I noticed the kiosk and managed to take a quick look inside. Things on the shelves appeared to be locally produced, but I couldn't see any price tags anywhere. Eventually we reached Kim Il-sung Square, the political heart of North Korea. Our walk ended at the foreign languages bookshop. Despite its name, almost every book on sales was about North Korea itself, simply translated into different languages. The most prominent displays featured collections of North Korean supreme leaders, highlighting the cult of their personality. Well, besides books, the shop sold postcards, pictures, and other kinds of souvenirs. There was even a scale model of a North Korean ballistic missile, probably one of the most unexpected souvenirs I've ever seen in the tourist gift shops. It is not a secret that tourist itinerary in North Korea is a collection of selected attractions approved by the authorities, places designed to present the country in the most favorable light possible. One example was the Fatherland Liberation War Museum, North Korea's enormous museum dedicated to the Korean War. So in that museum, we were gathered into a presentation room where we watched an introductory film explaining the origins of the Korean War. The story was presented from the North Korean perspective.
Подвижность США Япония превращалась в базу наказания, снабжения американских войск, в базу ремонта их боевых техники.
According to North Korean narrative, the United States and its allies were solely responsible for starting the conflict, while North Korea was portrayed as the victim, defending itself. Regardless of anyone's political views, it's important to remember that this version differs significantly from the consensus accepted by the rest of the world.
Когда мы за 3 месяца освободили почти все районы, американцы мобилизовали войска ООН, и длилось 3 года. За 3 года войны корейская армия уничтожила, развела трофей более 13 тысяч граждан.
In addition to the exhibition of some classic captured military equipment from the Korean War, there was the unique one, USS Puebla, the American spy ship captured by North Korea in 1968. The vessel remains one of the country's most famous exhibits, and is still presented as evidence of what North Korea describes as a major victory over the United States, even though it is not even directly connected to the Korean War. There is definitely an anti-American narrative in North Korean propaganda, especially when it comes to the Korean War. On the other hand, the Soviet Union is remembered in a very different way. Our next stop was the Liberation Tower, a monument dedicated to the Red Army soldiers who died during the liberation of Korea from Japanese rule in 1945. The Russian inscription on the monument says, "Eternal glory to the great Soviet Army, which liberated the Korean people from Japanese slavery and opened the path to freedom and independence." There is another interesting place in Pyongyang which reflects a certain degree of Russian influence in North Korea. This is the Church of the Life-Giving Trinity, the only Orthodox church in the country.
Наш храм – это подарок великого руководителя товарища Ким Чен Ира, русским православным христианам и символ корейско-российской дружбы.
It was built in the early 2000s after King Jong-il reportedly visited Russia and became interested in Orthodox Christianity. The church was completed with support from the Russian Orthodox Church, and its priests received theological training in Russia before returning to Pyongyang.
Наш храм посещают преимущественно сотрудники посольства России, КНДР и туристы, как вы. И еще вы видите на стене это иконы висят. Это подарены личными деятелями и русскими делегатами. И вы видите его на новой там иконе Свято-Троицкой. Это подарил президент Российской Федерации Владимир Владимирович Путин.
Do North Koreans attend the church? From what the priest told me, no. We all know that there is one religion in North Korea called Chuchhe, and there are only two gods. Names of both start with Kim. Because of all these limitations and features of the North Korean guided tours, I realized that if I wanted to see even a glimpse of everyday life in North Korea, I couldn't rely solely on the official itinerary. Like every tourist itinerary, it was built around carefully selected landmarks and attractions. So whenever we were driving between those locations, I spent almost the entire time looking out of the window and catching random moments. In the very center of Pyongyang, you see a fair number of cars these days. But once you move to some avenues at least 10 minutes drive away from the center, many of them feel halfway empty. As a fan of rail transport, I was happy to spot some of the Pyongyang's trams, which were imported from Czechoslovakia during the Cold War. Some of these trams have been modernized and became almost unrecognizable.
Мы заметили, что в городе много такси. А такси это можно заказать онлайн через телефон или как-то? То есть есть приложение?
Да.
Там.
Телефоном мы все платим в ресторанах, магазинах, и
Ага.
мы можно вызвать такси.
Интересно.
Да, местные.
А сколько стоит проехать 1 километр на такси? 1,2 $. Okay.
Finally, for us it was a lunchtime. By North Korean standards, and actually by any standard, we were fed very well. The table was packed with dishes, and most of the food was delicious.
So much meat, fish, all kinds of vegetables, some snacks. I'm feeling bad because of it, because I'm eating more than like any other person here.
Of course, it's worth remembering that this says very little about what ordinary North Koreans eat on a daily basis. Foreign tourists are shown a carefully curated version of the country, and the food is no exception. Anyway, for us it was finally time for one of the places I had actually been looking forward to visit, the Pyongyang metro.
А сколько всего станций в Пхеньянском метрополитене?
17 станций.
17 станций?
Если кто-то не знает, как доехать до какой-то станции, тогда вот там кнопку нажимает, показывает, как нам ехать.
When we made it to Pyongyang metro, I cautiously made my first attempts at filming myself for the vlog. I still wasn't entirely sure how the authorities would react if I openly walked around talking to a camera like a typical YouTuber.
Это мы сейчас все вместе поедем с ребятами из школы.
By the way, when we were in metro, we were accompanied by one more person who didn't introduce himself, so I assumed that he was a special subway security assistant or just another state security service employee. For a city of roughly 3 million people, the Pyongyang metro is actually quite compact. It consists of just 2 lines with a total of 17 stations. For years, some people claimed that the system consisted of only 2 showcase stations, built exclusively for tourists, with everyone else supposedly paying actors. That theory has long since been disproven. Some foreign visitors have been allowed to travel through the network beyond the original tourist stations, confirming that the metro is exactly what it appears to be on the map. Our journey began at Bukhin station, whose name translates as revival. The station was originally opened in 1987, but underwent a major renovation in 2024-2025. At the far end of the station is a monumental mosaic which depicts Kim Il-sung surrounded by workers against the backdrop of factories and heavy industry, reinforcing one of the central themes of North Korean public art: the leader as the guiding force behind the country's industrial development and the unity between the leadership and the working people. In Pyongyang metro, you can still spot female platform attendants. They supervise train movements and formally signal each departure. Even though smartphones are becoming increasingly common in North Korea, printed state newspapers still occupy a prominent place in everyday public life. However, I didn't see crowds of people reading them.
Сейчас даже фонариком подсвечивает, чтобы лучше видно было, да?
Да. Ну, старики, вот зрение.
Да, уже зрение.
Pyongyang metro still relies on former East Berlin Class D trains, built in the 1950s and 1960s. After German reunification, these trains became surplus and were exported to North Korea, where they remain in regular passenger service decades later.
Двери открываются вручную?
Не, автоматически, он чтобы побыстрее.
То есть можно руками открыть, чтобы быстрее было?
Чуть-чуть трогай, тогда не так сильно.
Интересно. Поезда, метро, вот эти. Это чье производство?
Сначала, когда строили метро, тогда было в Чехословакии, чешские вагоны были, но сейчас наш отечественный будет.
Ну это еще старый поезд, да? Вот
Это старый поезд. И бывает все наши отечественные.
Перемешанные. Есть такие, значит.
Да.
Our guide told us that the metro trains had been built in Czechoslovakia, which was not true. Czechoslovakia supplied trams to Pyongyang, but never metro trains. Today's metro fleet is made up primarily of former German trains, as we have already discovered. Some of the German cars have since been extensively rebuilt in North Korea, making them look like new trains. We were also told that the train doors opened automatically, which was again incorrect. Once the driver unlocked the doors, passengers still had to open them manually, and we could see it. Doors only closed automatically. I mean, it's just a reminder not to trust blindly everything they say.
Можно так думать, мы сейчас на корабле и по обеим сторонам ВАГА. А сейчас мы на корабле ВАГА можно наблюдать обе стороны, восточный Pyongyang и западный Pyongyang.
We arrived at Yongwan station. Like Puhin, it recently underwent a renovation. So what visitors see today is a blend of its original 1980s architecture and the modern upgrades completed in 2025. There was a large group of school children wearing bright red neckerchiefs. The children belonged to the Korean Children's Union, the country's equivalent of the Soviet Young Pioneers. Membership in the Children's Union is considered a normal stage of childhood in North Korea, and the organization combines school activities with ideological education, centered, of course, on the state and the Kim leadership. Our final stop on the metro tour was Kaesong Station, where we got off the train after passing several more stations. Like the other showcase stations, Kaesong has also been renovated in recent years and is kept in excellent condition. The station is decorated with polished marble and colorful murals celebrating the country's history and its vision of national prosperity. After exploring the subway, we headed back to the surface to visit the Arch of Triumph, situated nearby. It was built to commemorate the 70th birthday of Kim Il-sung. The monument celebrates his role in the anti-Japanese resistance during the period of Japanese rule over Korea. We We were shown a short documentary film explaining something which I don't remember, because instead of watching another propaganda movie, I was keen on seeing a bit of Pyongyang from the Arch observation deck. Having seen some of the famous landmarks of Pyongyang, which have been seen by nearly all other foreign visitors of North Korea's capital before, we then went to the most unexpected place of the tour, a brand new memorial complex dedicated to North Korean soldiers who took part in the Russo-Ukrainian War, specifically in Kursk region. The memorial commemorates North Korean soldiers who fought alongside Russian forces during the operation to retake parts of Russia's Kursk region. Ukrainian forces had seized portions of the region during their cross-border offensive in August 2024. Over the following months, Russian troops, supported by North Korean units, gradually regained control of the occupied territory, although the broader Russia-Ukraine war continued.
Товарищ Чеченин лично инициировал строительство нашего музея и определил его место именно здесь.
The memorial had opened in April 2026, making us among the very first foreign tourists to see it. According to the North Korean officials, more than 2,200 North Korean soldiers were killed during the Kursk operation. Independent estimates vary, and the real number may well be higher, but it cannot be verified independently. Foreign intelligence agencies estimate that roughly 15,000 North Korean troops participated in the campaign overall.
Вы можете увидеть центральную скульптурную композицию. Она изображает героический облик солдат наших двух стран, которые вместе сражаются на одном фронте за международную справедливость и мир.
While entering the museum itself, visitors face a wall writing in Russian and Korean languages. This is what Vladimir Putin once said. The Russian people will never forget the heroism of the Korean Special Forces soldiers. We will always honor the Korean heroes who gave their lives for Russia and for our shared freedom, alongside their Russian brothers in arms. Funnily enough, initially Kremlin did not confirm participation of North Koreans. Only in April 2025, when Russia announced that Ukrainian forces had been pushed out of most of the Kursk region, their deployment was confirmed. Well, go figure.
Прекрасные фотографии и материалы, которые показывают о настоящем товариществе, о революционном духовности наших солдат, которые привели каждый бой к самым чудесным боевым успехам. Они всегда носили за пазухой с собой саморучно нарисованные, сделанные госфлаги нашей страны и узелки с горстью родной земли. А на перерывах после боя они писали письма своим родным и любимым, мысленно разговаривали с ними.
Unfortunately, photography inside the museum was prohibited, and it took me too much time to figure out how to actually capture something, so I can only describe what I saw. The exhibition was surprisingly extensive. It included military equipment and personal belongings of soldiers, and photographs documenting the employment of North Korean forces in the Kursk region. In the museum, there is an open-air display of military equipment that North Korea and Russia describe as captured during the fighting in the Kursk region. The exhibition includes several well-known Western vehicles supplied to Ukraine by NATO countries. One of the exhibits is a British Mastiff protected patrol vehicle, widely used by British forces in Afghanistan before being supplied to Ukraine. Another British vehicle on display is the Husky Tactical Support Vehicle. The Husky is designed mainly for logistics, patrol and support missions. At the center of the exhibition stands is what the museum identifies as the American Abrams main battle tank. The Abrams is considered one of the world's most capable main battle tanks. As far as we know, this is the first major North Korean state memorial dedicated to an overseas military operation, while the conflict that gave rise to it is still going on. After dinner, we returned to our hotel. I had a spacious twin room all to myself, while my travel buddy stayed in the room across the hall. We were on the 37th floor, which offered an excellent view over Pyongyang. The interior looked a bit old-fashioned, I would say late 1980s or 90s, so the interior totally matched the time when the hotel was built. One of the strangest objects in the room was what looked like an old radio. At first, I honestly wondered whether it might be some kind of spy device, especially considering the number of wires disappearing into the wall behind it. Who knows? After a bit of experimenting, we discovered that turning its controls simply switched the room lights on and off, but we couldn't play the radio itself. The room also had a TV with 8 channels, 4 Chinese channels, 2 Russian ones, and 2 North Korean state channels. At night, the city looked completely different. Until around 10 p.m., many buildings were illuminated with lights, giving parts of Pyongyang a surprisingly decent appearance. But by around midnight, almost all of that lighting had been switched off. In fact, upon arrival to the hotel from the busy day in Pyongyang, I didn't go to sleep right away. To wrap up the first day in Pyongyang, following my special request, our guides took me to the Pyongyang railway station to let me listen to the famous North Korean melody called "Where Are You, Dear General?" The tune is played over the station loudspeakers almost every day, or perhaps actually every day, we don't know, beginning at 6 a.m. and ending with its final broadcast at 10 p.m., playing once in 2 hours during the day. This haunting melody is simultaneously the alarm clock and the lullaby, which can be heard by Pyongyang citizens who live close to the train station.